Cold at the touch, dead in the eyes, no signs of life no more. I put your love under the knife. Leave me to die here all alone. No signs of life no more, no. A crying dove may never fly. It's black and white. Yeah. Black and white. Oh, oh. Oh, oh. It's black and white. No more. Black and white, just let me go. It's only right. For all I know, it's only matter. It's calico, it's black and white. White, white, white. Just let me go. It's only right. For all I know, it's only matter. It's calico, it's black and white. White, white, white. It's black and white. Yeah. Black and white. Oh, 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 oh. It's black and white. It's black and white.
Hello race fans and welcome to the season finale of the Simracersworld European Porsche Cup, live from Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya, just outside the village of Montmello. My name is Peter MacKay, and joining me in the commentary box this evening is Jack Oliphant. And Jack Oliphant, the man of many talents, also in the production booth as well, bringing you these beautiful images of a virtual Catalunya circuit at this moment in time. Jack, it's been a busy season, it's been a controversial season, but we've had some great racing along the way, and tonight it's time to do it for one last time.
Well, what's racing without controversy? Pete, you've always got to have some spice to the drama, haven't we? and there's been plenty of that. However, there has been a few standout performers. Will they stand out tonight? That is the big question. We've got a championship to decide, Pete, tonight, but I'm sure it's going to be a good one.
That we do. We do have a very important title to hand out this evening for rounds 11 and 12 of the Simracersworld European Porsche Cup series. And of course, being in the centre of Spain, in the heart of summer, we've got some very high temperatures out on the circuit at the moment. And as far as grips concerned tonight, Jack, that's going to cause quite a challenge.
It is indeed. We saw how the sort of the weather has played an impact. It's 28 degrees out there on track circuit at the moment. Not the worst temperatures we've seen, but certainly going to affect the tyres slightly. But these drivers are, well, they're the best Porsche drivers Sim Racers World can find, aren't they? So it's going to be, I'm sure they'll be able to handle the heat. If they can't, they better get out of the kitchen. What is the championship looking like at the moment then? Well, we can have a cheeky look at it, shall we? Because Lewis Ward is on top at the moment going into the final round tonight. He's got 201 points, and I have to say, it really has to go badly for him if he's to throw this one away. 201 points, that's a full, quick maths, 29 points ahead of Ryan Parkins in second place. If my maths is wrong, I'm sure someone will correct me in the chat. Matthew Crisp, 170 points. So that's second place, still right up for grabs. Gavin Hall's retired from the series, hasn't made it to last week's, won't be making it to this week's either, which is surprising, to be honest, because he was right in there with the championship. He's got 3 race wins throughout this course of this series, and he hasn't even turned up to the last 2. Sam Bentham, currently in 5th place, we're likely hoping to be jumping ahead of Gavin Hall's in 4 to maybe take that top 4 spot. Austin Greatorex, he needs a big turnaround, but you never know, he could crack into the top 4 if Sam Bentham has a bit of a mare. That's how we're looking at the moment. You can see a few more names that have been featuring throughout the last 5 weeks, from Blake down to De Kuiper in the 11th down to 20th place. Find your favourite driver out of that list, and if you haven't seen your favourite driver so far throughout that list, maybe he's on this one, 21st down to 30th. If you're looking at some of the drivers that maybe haven't scored quite the high hopes that they were looking for, Adam McNally's been involved in an awful lot of incidents throughout the entire series, as well as the other Excite drivers as well. Adam Delmont right below him in 23rd position. And then you get to the bottom end of the final page, 31st down to 40th. This is full of drivers that entered, maybe did one round, maybe they didn't manage to catch up and do any more, but we've seen them throughout the series, so fantastic to have their names along as well. Speaking of having the names along, Pete, of course we've got some fantastic sponsors here tonight as well.
That we do, yes indeed. And well, first of all, let's start with Simmortal Sim Racing Models, who can, of course, one of the big parts of virtual racing is creating your own livery, and if you've got sponsors, even better, include them on the car. And Simmortal can actually immortalize your sim racing car in model forms. You can have it on your desks, and people say, "Oh, what's that?" And you go, "Well, that's my very own racing car." So give the guys at Simmortal a shout, and they can immortalize your car for a Christmas gift or whatever it might be. And also, we have Shark e-bikes as well. Of course, I was out in the west coast of Scotland last weekend, and there was a lot of people using e-bikes. And if they weren't using a Shark e-bike, I gave them a bad look. I said, "How dare you? How dare you not choose the #1 e-bike available in the United Kingdom, a Shark e-bike?" I personally would not get aboard any other e-bike other than a Shark e-bike.
Oh, I mean, you're trusting your life in that bike, essentially, aren't you? Actually, I went onto their website the other day, joking aside slightly, and it was 27 kilometres an hour they reach up to. So, you know, fair play. They're not slouches, are they? They don't hang about. Neither to the drivers they sponsor either, because not only are Shark e-bikes actually sponsoring the series, they're also on the side of the Porsche Sport 912 and 911 drivers as well. So, you know, they're very quick peddlers as it happens. Pardon the pun, but yeah, fantastic looking product. And I'm for sure living in Yorkshire. I'm sure you're the same living in Scotland. It's not a flat terrain. We're not in Norwich, so you know, an e-bike could be very advantageous, and they'd be the first people I'd call.
Well, they come from Yorkshire, of course. Carl Sharkey of Shark e-bikes from Yorkshire, so they're tried and tested in the uphill and down dale of Yorkshire. I mean, what better test could they be put through other than going up Mont Ventoux itself? Anyway, we're about halfway through the qualifying session at the moment, and as it stands, Ryan Parkins sits on top of the timesheets by again a very slender margin indeed from Josh Cam, who's really been a revelation. He's had 2 rounds so far, or 2 meetings, I should say, 4 races, and he's won 2 of them, Jack, and both have been feature race wins. Now, the way in which he got to that feature race win last week at Silverstone was incredible by having to fuel save massively to avoid taking a pit stop altogether, and that played very, very nicely. Now, I wonder if more drivers will give that a go this time around.
Well, sometimes we like to drag a driver in after qualifying. We don't always have the time, of course, but I am very curious to see whether that's going to be a viable option here at Catalunya. Very different circuit, obviously, to the one we were at last time out at Silverstone, and I think Interlagos, some people managed it as well. However, Road Atlanta, no one managed to do it at Road Atlanta. And Barcelona, we're not sure. We go into this as a guessing game, don't we, Pete? Because to be honest, when we were doing Hockenheim, when we were doing Spa, we actually assumed that it was a mandatory pit stop, didn't we? Because everybody seemed to take one. But then it was revealed that actually they're just limiting the amount of fuel that the Porsche can take on. Well, I'm not even sure if they're limiting it. It's just sometimes the Porsche can just do that distance. And they're pulling out the stops, aren't they? So very impressive to see Josh Camp do that last week. And I think he was the only driver to pull off such a feat. Because he did it, he won the race by about 20 seconds or something ridiculous. So very well done by him. But of course, as you said, he's new. He was only at Road Atlanta and Silverstone. He's already in the top 10 of the championship because he is winning those races that he is entering. So very impressive. Let's see how far he can climb in this one. Ryan Parkins obviously in second place in the championship. Well, Lewis Ward has squished himself in between Josh Cam and Ryan Parkins. He's in a Porsche Sport sandwich, it would seem, the Team 11 driver. He's currently in the pits at the moment. There he is in the nice shiny new livery. He's leading the championship at the moment. But I just want to bring up how close the gap is, Pete, between 4th, essentially, and 1st place.
Very, very tight indeed. And this is what we've seen all season long. We've had some incredible qualifying sessions. But yeah, 4 drivers covered by a 10th. That's quite amazing, I must say. So we'll see who's going to come out on top. Interesting, a lot of the drivers coming into pit lane, going in to get new tyres and back out again on multiple occasions throughout the qualifying session, rather than just staying out and going round in circles. That would indicate to me, Jack, that the tyres are going to go off quite quickly.
Yeah, I mean, people obviously try and come in, they try and use all the tyre life they can get, but you're right, maybe the temperature's so high, the peak is so narrow, the window of opportunity is so small that they're having to use come in and switch the tyres around as quickly as they can. You're absolutely right, maybe the tyres won't last, and is that going to be another option? Because that's something we haven't seen intentionally, I don't think. We have seen it, but I don't think it's been intentional that drivers swap the tyres round, because a 40-minute race is not exactly an endurance race, but if they choose the tyres up, maybe they're losing 2 seconds a lap just from having poor tyres. It might be a viable option to try and stick some new sets on and try and race at the front. The problem is then you might lose track position, and it's always better to have track position than it is strategy. It's a very difficult one, really. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the drivers produce, and those with teammates may well get an advantage. Speaking of teammates, Team 11, PJ Clayson's alongside, well, it's not quite alongside, but now the row behind Lewis Ward, and that Porsche Sport sandwich is getting even fuller.
That it is, yeah. So we've now got 5 cars within a 10th at the top of the field. Absolutely amazing. And imagine if you're Sam Bentham, you think, oh, I'm only just over 2/10 off pole. Oh, I'm 6th. Oh, well, oh dear. Or you go all the way back to 10th. I'm 6/10 off. Oh, I'm in 10th. That's brutally close at the moment. So during the race, well, could get very interesting indeed. PJ Clayson goes back out onto circuit for another run. It should get Ooh, we have to get him maybe 2 flying. No, I think that's actually going to be a bit of a... Oh, it's going to be close, actually, to get 3 flying laps. If not, we'll be able to get 2 before the session ticks over. And the minute it hits 20 minutes, that's it done. There's no waiting for drivers to finish their laps. So we'll see what PJ Claytons can come up with. Craig Schill for Westech Autosport. We had the team manager of Westech Autosport, Jack Werrell, with us last week, telling us all about this new team. And Jack doesn't appear to have set a qualifying time yet.
No, so he's guest starring today as Jack Werrell. The only sort of round he's entered into, but he's only done 1 lap. It wasn't valid, and I think he just did his out lap and came straight back in, to be honest. So, not ideal for him, but maybe he's intentionally to start at the back. His teammate, Craig Schill, hasn't been around for the last couple of meetings. However, that means that Sam Bentham does finally have teammates, doesn't it, to try and bounce off of. Unfortunately for him, they're the other end of the grid at the moment, whereas the Porsche Sport drivers and the Team 11 drivers are relatively close to each other. Team Mad, you're looking at Mark Woodhouse and Jerome Kaiser. Now, we were talking about Simmortal Models before. I saw Jerome Kaiser's Team Mad Audi RS3, that's the TCR model that's represented in iRacing. They had a Team Mad variant on their Facebook page as well. So if you want to go and check out Jerome Kaiser's Audi livery in physical model form, then by all means go and click the link down below for Simmortal Models. I think it's the 2nd or 3rd highest post that they've done recently, so it's always worth to have a look at. A lot of people coming on outlaps at the moment, Lewis Ward being one of them, Chris, Bentham, Wood, Delmont, Sharkey I think was in there as well. There's a lot of people trying to set one last flying lap. I think this is the 4th time they've been in or something like that to try and put new tyres on.
Yeah, it's interesting when you see them coming out to do, the drivers doing their warm-up laps. They take it very gently because they're actually not wanting to overheat the tyre. Getting the tyre up to heat is absolutely no problem at all, but overheating the tyre is an issue here on the iRacing platform, in particular with this Porsche 911 GT3 Cup machine. Of course, very typical 911, like you would get with the road car model. The engine is hung out over the rear wheels, 4-litre, flat 6, no turbochargers, and also no ABS, no traction control. So it's a very pure racing car. Josh Cam goes to 2nd place, misses out on pole by 35 thousandths of a second. So will anyone else pull out a personal best in these last couple of minutes?
Lewis Ward looks like he's a little bit quicker, although he's actually not quicker through Sector 2, so this won't be a quicker lap. That's because he's on his out lap, Jack. Maybe that's a good reason why. He's stopping in the middle of the circuit, and or even on the runoff area of the circuit. I'm not entirely sure where Lewis Ward is parked at the moment. But Josh Camp, you're right, he's purpled Sector 2. Now, interestingly enough, he's managed to put himself into 2nd place. Ooh, but a big spin, as it happens as well. His Sector 1 and Sector 3 were worse. They weren't personal bests or anything. It's just he absolutely nailed Sector 2. Ryan Parkins, since putting it on pole position, hasn't been out since. So Ryan Parkins is fairly, confident that as the only driver to drop into the 46s, he's going to secure that pole position. Maybe he's gone to get a drink or something, I'm not entirely sure, but that is very confident driving by Parkins. But of course, like you said, Peter, as soon as it hits 20 minutes, there's no finish the lap you're on, it just finishes. We're running to a very nice, strict schedule here for the Porsche Simracersworld European Porsche Cup, and nothing's going to stand in their way, let alone finishing any of those silly laps.
I've just had a mention from a message from Jack Werrell. He's not doing qualifying as he's an invitational driver, so he's going to start from the back so that he's not in the way of those competing for the titles. That's very good manners. Whoa, as Jerome Kaiser goes sideways and backwards into the pit lane.
He's pitting with style, that's what that is.
That is. Yeah, that's just the team mad way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, enter it backwards or don't enter it at all. That sounds awful. No, anyway. So who have we got around? Parkins, Cam, Ward, they're all in the pits. Crisp in the pits. Clayson's not going quicker. So I think this is pretty much going to be the grid as we look at it.
Looks like it. Now, we're getting confirmation as well from our wonderful league administrator and race steward supreme, Bart Daleman, that the winner of the championship receives a Simmortal model in their livery. So if Lewis Ward were to win, I wonder if we get it in that new livery. It's very cool. Anyway, on pole position, the man chasing Lewis Ward down for the title, Ryan Parkins, starts on pole position right alongside his Porsche Sport stablemate, Josh Cam, on the front row of the grid. Row 2 will be Lewis Ward, the championship leader, and PJ Claessens, his teammate at Team 11. Matthew Crisp and Sam Bentham will start on row 3, with Chris Wood, Carl Sharkey, Adam Delman, and Austin Greatorex rounding out the top 10. Matteo Sufi will start from 11th alongside Mark Woodhouse on row 6. Row 7 sees Michael Blake and Jeroen Kaiser, with Joel Eulenbroek and Jens Goossens starting on row 8. And finally, Craig Schill and Jack Werrell start on the 9th row of the grid for WesTech Autosport. So 18 cars, and it's a long old drag down towards turn 1, Jack. You got to be careful, especially on cold tyres, cold brakes. Easy to pinch a little bit of a lockup.
Yeah, but they won't be cold for too long. Look how that track temperature has rocketed up. It was around the 27, 20 to 29 degrees. It's now up to 32 degrees. And it's 32 degrees here in Leeds, and I can tell you that is absolutely sweltering. So these tyres are not going to be very happy for very long. They might get 1 or 2 quick laps out of them, but all of a sudden they're going to start struggling. It's a long race. Even this sprint race is a fairly long race for these tyres to keep up with. So we'll see how they get on. But you're right, cold tyres and a Porsche 911 GT3 Cup car, it normally means it's tail happy. But we'll have to see.
We will indeed. So the revs rise for the penultimate time here in the Simracersworld European Porsche Cup. And we are racing. It's a good getaway from the King Hippo, Ryan Parkins, as it is for Josh Cam, but the Team 11 cars right in behind looking to make a move early on. Lewis Ward goes to the far outside line. Ryan Parkins very, very late on the brakes there as well, and Ward tries to turn in and he's got Josh Cam in the way. So it's a Porsche Sport 1-2 from the getaway, followed by the 2 Team 11 cars. Matthew Crisp still in there as well, and Chris Wood in for the fun too as well, with Carl Sharkey starting off in 7th to begin with, but all through clean with the leaders.
Yeah, it's the Simmortal driver of Chris Wood, who gives Simmortal a lot of love so far in the stream, and to be honest, he's doing well. He's already up 1 place, as Sam Bentham's gone backwards, so's Michael Blake, so's Jens Goossens and Adam Delmont. So there has been drama in the background, but these drivers at the moment look like they've gotten away safely, and Lewis Ward looks on the inside, but I'll tell you what, that door was closed rather aggressively there by Josh Cam. He's going to have to slot back in, and Ryan Parkins will be absolutely loving having Josh Cam in between himself and Lewis Ward, because this is obviously for championship points. This is for championship glory. Lewis Ward has a fairly big advantage of that so far, but every little helps from Parkins right now, and he'll be hoping that the final race can even go harder his way.
Well, this is where having a quick teammate can be very, very helpful indeed, and Josh Cam certainly qualifies for that, and Josh can do his teammate Ryan Parkins here a huge favour by keeping Lewis Ward at bay, and indeed by backing the pack up and including a lot of more drivers into that battle at the front. It might sound dirty, it might sound unsportsmanlike, but that is the tactics of motor racing when teammates are involved, and it really, if you don't play it, somebody else will.
Well, and you can see that Josh Cam is playing it hard as well, because Ryan Parkins has got a 7/10 gap. Look at the background though. PJ Claessens trying to hold off Matthew Crisp, another driver that's in the championship running, maybe trying to vie for that 2nd position in the championship. Claessens goes a little bit deep, but that's okay because he gets the left-hander. Doesn't quite get a good enough run though, and he's been tapped. There we go. He kept the door shut. Crisp was just looking if he could just put a toe in the door, maybe open it up just a little. And in fact, I think he has just about got the toe in the door, hasn't he, as he dives up the inside. I think Claessens has given him just enough room to give it an option, and there we go, Chris goes through.
I have to say, amazing start from Jack Werrell, up to 10th position from the back of the grid. So he's gone up 8 places in just a lap and a half. Amazing stuff from the young man from Lincolnshire. But still, Parkins leads with Josh Cam in 2nd, holding Lewis Ward at bay. And interestingly, the battle here between Claessens and Crisp is allowing Cam and Ward to escape. So that could well be a two-car battle for second place for the foreseeable future. But interestingly, Ryan Parkin's not breaking away from Cam and Ward either. So looks like we could all be coming together quite soon.
It does indeed. These three are having a right good ding-dong, aren't they? I bet Chris Wood is loving this. Maybe he is probably the first to admit he's not always there on pace with these drivers, but the fact that they are fighting so hard means he's getting that opportunity to enjoy himself, get some screen time, and also this is what progresses you as a driver, isn't it? Fighting the drivers that are maybe just that couple of tenths quicker than you. You learn a bit more, you learn how they race, how you should race against them, their lines, their braking points. And all of a sudden you find that you're running at the same pace. You find you're those extra 2 tenths yourself as well. As Josh Camp goes purple, goes the quickest lap time of the race. You're absolutely right, Pete. Ryan Parkins is not pulling away. I think Lewis Ward has just stopped fighting Josh Camp quite so hard because he realised that he was going to drop away from Parkins. And maybe he's just trying to encourage Cam, okay, you need to go quicker to keep me behind you. I'm not going to fight you, but if you go slowly, I will overtake you. You need to keep up with Parkins. Now he doesn't really have a choice. It's down to Parkins to pull away.
That it is, yeah. It's this is where we'll see if there is any team tactics at play. Judging by that purple lap time from Josh Cam, probably not. But it's interesting, you know, if you're trying to back you know, your teammate's rival up a little bit, you can do it very cleverly. Just a little bit of a left mid corner when they, you know, when there's no way through, and just those little left here and there can just give away a couple of tenths a lap, and that can be all that's required. But at the moment, there's none of that going on. It's very much 1, 2, 3, three drivers lapping as quick as they can at the moment. It appears. Can Lewis Ward make his way through? You could argue, Jack, that Lewis Ward needn't take the risk. A third place would be more than good enough. That would put him in very much in the driving seat for the final race.
Well, that's exactly that, isn't it? And it's whether or not he wants to take that risk. However, the final race could all go badly for him. He could end up DNFing. And I'm not sure on the quick maths then. We have got Bart Daleman's typing away in his computer. I won't make him do any calculations just yet, but I think even if Ward did DNF the last round, he may well still have enough in the tank after this one. I'm not entirely sure how many points. In fact, I'll be able to find out very quickly how many points you get for a race victory. It is 30, and remember, he's 29 points behind Lewis Ward is Ryan Parkins at the moment. So, yeah, he will eat a few more points out with the lead. Oh, it has to go very badly wrong for Lewis Ward to chuck this away.
Yeah, it does indeed. It does indeed. So we'll see how it plays out over the course of the evening. Now, Jack Werrell appears to have got some damage on the front right-hand side of his Porsche 911. So what has gone on there? In fact, now, or is it on his teammate Sam Bent? They both got it. Both the Westech cars are dented. You can see the Chinese knockoff Hyundai N badges are still okay though.
Yes, I mean that's the important bit. Got to get that cheap knockoff branding right, haven't we? We can actually see why Sam Bentham. This is right at the start. This was Bentham's cause, and it was also probably the gain. Oh, that's a huge lunge at the inside, but it's a shame really that, and the Excite car gets turned around. That was Adam Delmont. It's a shame really, isn't it, Pete? Because I mean you've watched enough 911 GT3 racing to know that this isn't entirely how it would react. There'd be some door rubbing and everything like that, but they wouldn't go spinning off like that with quite such a small touch, would they? Carl Sharkey also had a little bit of an incident.
Yeah, exactly. I think there was that Austin Gray. Oh, yeah, Carl Sharkey. Rear-ended. Oh, and then that kicks off the carnage. I see. Right. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, it seemed like I think it was a Bentham going up the inside of. Oh my word. Going up the inside of Greatorex, and Greatorex just, I don't know if he maybe saw Sam Bentham in his mirror, and just, like you say, they just rubbed, but the reaction didn't quite mimic what it maybe should have been, so quite unlucky for those concerned, but they carry on nonetheless. Now, the last lap round, the leaders were separated, all three of them separated by 100th of a second. Josh Cam and Lewis Ward were identical to the very 1,000th of a second. That is how close it is at the front of this motor race.
Yeah, quite stunning. And fact, you can see there pretty much it's so close between the drivers. With any luck, it'll stay like this for the entire evening, won't it? Because it's fascinating for us to watch, but it'll also really put pressure on the strategy. We were talking before, weren't we, about how far can the cars go on a single tank of fuel here at Catalunya? Will they be able to go the full distance if they fuel save? You've got a reverse grid to think about. They're going to have to carve through, but it is brilliant racing, and it just sets up a fantastic finale, which is what we were hoping for.
Indeed, yes, that is what that is what we come for. That is for sure here on Simracersworld TV. Of course, this Catalunya venue very, very familiar to fans of Grand Prix motorsport, both on 2 and 4 wheels. In fact, the circuit will celebrate its 30th anniversary in September, and it has hosted the Formula 1 and Motorcycle Grand Prix here since that point. Now, Jack Whirl has had a bit of a spin. And he's had another spin, trying to get going. One more, Jack. There you go. Coming into the hairpin, and well, he avoided it in his teammate.
He avoided everyone, to be fair, didn't he? I mean, it's a very slow spin, but that's he was obviously trail braking into the corner, and then if you just have a look, there's no contact here. He trails brake into the corner, and then he just holds on to he's got too much lock on and too much braking. The weight is too far forward on the front right, and the rear left just gives up.
Yeah, absolutely. It was certainly on the charge. I suppose if you're the team boss, it's always do as I say, not as I do. Like, he could hit his teammates and go, well, what are you going to do about it? I'm the boss.
Well, exactly that. Yeah, he was trying very hard, wasn't he, to make sure that wasn't the way of Westec Motorsport last week when we had a little chat with him. He was very much, it's a democracy and go and do what you want and all that sort of thing. But I reckon if he got punted off, there would be a word to say or two.
He has paid the cost to be the boss.
Exactly. You got to be nice to the boss at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, let's see how long that lasts. Like, la-di-da, we're all best friends.
Maybe that's why he doesn't race very often. He just jumps into this at the last minute.
He's just on the pit wall sending emails with diagrams.
Yeah, exactly. And complaining about invoices and why it costs so much money. That's what team bosses do, I found.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that is what they do. Well, Ryan Parkins has not been able to break away at all from Josh Cam, and Lewis Ward has indeed not been able to get past Josh Cam either. It is incredible how evenly matched these 3 drivers are. Let's get a look at their lap times over the line. I'd be amazed if there's even a 10th between them on their lap times this time by, because they are so close. 1:49.0 for Parkins, a 48.7 for Cam, 48.7 for Ward. So a little bit off the pace there for a tiny slither off the pace there for Parkins. Just running a little bit wide there as well. I wonder, is Parkins maybe struggling with an overheating tyre? I think he might be.
33 degrees of track temperature. I would not be surprised if he is. But of course, remember that the cars behind them will also not be getting that fresh air influx. They'll be getting quite a hot car in themselves as well. It's a little bit more difficult. It's one of the things that I really find very difficult in sim racing compared to real life racing, is feeling the heat of the car, because obviously if you're in the real life car, you can physically feel the heat coming into the car. You can feel the car lacking on power and everything like that. But if you're in the sim, all you have to do is how the car behaves. That's all you've got to go off, and all you've got to go off that as well is the steering wheel. So it can be quite difficult to see if the car is overheating. But you're right, Parkins is just running a little bit wide, which is slightly surprising because he's the one with all the fresh air hitting him. Even if it is a bit warm, it's still an abundance of air. Lewis Ward trying to get out of that slipstream, maybe to try and cool the car down a little bit. Josh Cam not bothering about it at all. Get me right up into that gearbox. That's exactly what I want to be.
Indeed, yeah, absolutely. That's what he's looking for. Normally Ryan Parkins is absolutely millimeter precise, but definitely a lot of corners where the car is washing out, struggling for grip, struggling to hit the apexes as well, and that's usually a telltale sign of the tires not gripping as they should. So that excessively high track temperature making it very hard for those Michelin tires to bite into the surface and give the grip he's looking for. And the bad news is that there's a long way to go. 17 minutes to go in this race. And interestingly now, Cam and Ward now starting, they're all dipping into the 49s. They were in the 47s at the start of the race. Now they're into the 49s. They were in the 48s for most of the race as well. So definitely the grip dropping off here, Jack.
Well, it's what we were talking about at the beginning, wasn't it, in qualifying, whether or not it'd be worth maybe going for tyres in the 40-minute feature race along with the fuel. It would add about 20 or 30 seconds on to the actual pit time accumulator thing, but it would maybe be worth it because these guys have already, we're only 13 and a half minutes in, they're already dropping down 2 seconds, or well, a second and a half off their flying lap. This is only going to get worse. It's going to get worse. They've got 17 minutes like you mentioned, and the grip is just going to keep falling away from them. They'll be in the 50s before they know it, and all of a sudden it's going to be a very difficult car to manoeuvre, and you'll be starting to see mistakes even from these extremely high-level drivers that we've got here tonight. Doesn't mean they're, you know, they're not human. There is every opportunity that we'll find a mistake in there. Parkin's running so wide on the apex. I mean, it's a bit of a Max Verstappen line. It's not always, you don't always need to nail an apex on a hairpin, and he's trying to get this cut back in, but look at the door he's left open there. He's got a good drive out of it, but I think Parkins is struggling here with Cam crawling all over the back of him, who of course can't exactly be slow because he's got Ward all over the back of him.
Yeah, that is really vivid actually how much the grip is dropping off. I'll be very interested to see what the lap times are here. 149.0, 149.1 last time by. What is it going to be this time? 149.5 for Parkins, 49.6 for Cam and Ward. So that, yeah, you're right, Jack. The grip is just disappearing. We're not even at half race distance yet. I think the investment in time, unfortunately, the tyres and fuel are done at different times on the iRacing service for this car. So the time taken to fit tyres is not going to be worth it, but it does mean that the drivers are going to have to somehow limp it for 40 minutes when we get to the feature race. Now, the one thing I would say though, Jack, is that if you're planning to do the fuel save, knowing that you're having to drive very softly and very gently, that's good for tyre wear as well. So we might see more drivers try it in these hot, sticky temperatures.
You're absolutely right. In fact, you've got to be really smooth if you're saving fuel. You've got to be really smooth if you're saving tyres. So, you know, they go hand in hand. So there's every opportunity you could well be right, and we'll have to see that because obviously, when you save fuel, you don't want to dump the throttle on exit, and because that'll one, churn away a load of fuel, and two, you know, spin the rear wheels up. So if you're both smoothing the exit and smoothing the entry, you won't put as much heat through the tyres on entry, you won't put as much force through them, and you'll save them. So maybe that's something they're going to have to think about. But these three drivers aren't thinking about that at all. Realistically, I think Lewis Ward, he's got about 3 seconds behind him. If he's happy with third place, if I was him, actually I'm not him, I won't say it because I'm nowhere near as good, but there's an opportunity where he could just back off the pace a touch. Not an awful lot, but it is PJ Clayton, who is the Team 11 teammate. Back off the pace just a touch, get some clean air, try and cool everything down and preserve the tyres so he's not going to make any mistakes. Whether or not he does that, there we go, 49.1, so they're actually speeding up slightly. So maybe the pace hasn't completely disappeared, but they are driving these cars extremely hard. We've had some incidents in the background. Sam Bentham has gone off in a very damaged looking Westec Autosport car. This is behind the 911 of Carl Sharkey, and he just goes a little bit wide, trying to be a bit greedy on the throttle on exit of the final corner. Matthew Crisp has also gone off. I thought this was a related incident, but it turns out it was not. Matthew Crisp going through. Again, that's not really an incident, it's just a little bit of an off-track. But Joel Eulenbrook has registered a crash on the server. That'll be why, because he span, lost control, ended up facing slightly the wrong way. Oh!
Yeah, look. Oh. Now we've got Josh Cam making a move for the lead here as well. He's on the inside, and he just about sneaks past his Porsche Sport teammate Lewis Ward, thinking he smells blood. He wants a slice of the King Hippo as well. So Ryan Parkins then hands the lead over. Well, no, Josh Cam takes the lead. Much more accurate, exact. And oh well, just as we say that, Josh Cam goes really wide there into the hairpin. Parkins goes through again, and now Ward is thinking, "Come on, chaps, make your mind up."
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, realistically, most of the time, it's sharks smelling blood in the water at the moment, but it's the T11 smelling the shark's blood in the water. That's what we're having a look here, because the Shark e-bike liveried cars are struggling somewhat. Parkin's obviously just struggling for grip and overall pace. Cam struggling to get the car stopped and turned. And actually, for a better in-depth look on how on earth that all happened, I'll just try and take it back a little bit. So, Josh Cam originally overtaking Ryan Parkins. So everything looks fine and dandy. There's a little lock-up. It's a wide moment there for Parkins.
Yeah, just a little mistake from Parkins there, and Cam went to take the advantage, and through they went. Interesting stuff. Speaking of smells, there can't be much better smell than the burning rubber. When you ask for full throttle on a Shark e-bike, you fly up a hill.
Oh, it's not messing about, is it? The torque that it produces. Oh, my days. You guys got to experience
Remember the
it.
smell of a Scalextric's car after 50 laps?
I never made it 50 laps. It flew into the sofa before I got round one.
Well, if you could do it, I had a Skoda Octavia that had a magnet on both axles, and it was just flat everywhere.
Oh, it's four-wheel drive you're talking there.
Four-wheel drive, yeah. Skoda Octavia VRS WRC.
Oh, well, there we go. It's WRC. That'll be why it has the four-wheel drive.
Game changer, yeah. Although I did prefer the oversteer of the Michelin Pilot Ford Escort RS Cosworth. I did like that. That was my first ever Scalextrics, actually.
You have to be very accurate. My first ever Scalextric, I think, was an Audi R8, which is why I actually fell in love with the car for quite a long time. And then I realised as I got older, the R8's nice. It's a touch dull, though, isn't it? You can very much tell it's Audi's supercar. It's just a touch dull. It's not quite as exciting as, say, a Porsche 911 or something like that, is it? Which I mean, what we're seeing here, and throwing the back end out a little bit, it's always a little bit more entertaining.
The Audi R8 Le Mans car was very cool.
Yes,
although
that's
it bared absolutely no resemblance to the road car,
no.
But in fact, it came before the road car, actually, long before it.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, the actual road car is just, it's a touch safe for a supercar, in my opinion. I'm sure it's brilliant, I'm sure it's very good, but when you actually sit in it, I don't know, I've never really sat in one. I have sat in one of the showroom. I just feel like you might as well be in an Audi A4 sort of thing.
It's
special.
A pretty similar interior to a TT, that's for sure.
Yeah, exactly. I just don't feel like it really gives you the wow factor.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you there. Well, who's going to win this race at the front? It's very, very. It's a kind of sussing out race here. Ryan Parkins has led for most of it. One small mistake allowed Josh Cam through before a mistake of his allowed Parkins back again. Ward has been stuck in third the whole time, right on the bumper of the two Porsche Sport drivers. But when is you can feel it's like someone shaking a champagne bottle. When is the cork going to go flying up and put a dent in the ceiling? I feel that's on the way.
Yeah, I have quite a funny story about that. Actually, I got into the podium at Brands Hatch once, and I'd never done the shaking the champagne and releases. So I'd never really popped the cork. I didn't really know what I was doing. And I actually got on. Oh, and there we go. Josh Cam going wide. He said that it felt like it was boiling over slightly, fizzing up. Well, Josh Cam running wide. That's the second time in the same place in the last 4 laps that Josh Cam has made a mistake there. Lewis Ward has sneaked on through, and actually then a huge hit on the curb as well. As Ward goes wide, there was an opportunity for Cam just to get a little bit closer, but he smashes the curb and ends up dropping off. So now all of a sudden we could be seeing a recovery drive, maybe a more aggressive attitude for Josh Cam here, but it's not normally his style, is it, Pete? It's probably not going to be too aggressive. It's just going to be clean and consistent.
Yeah, Josh has certainly got a very measured approach, that's for sure, and yeah, very accurate usually. So I think that tells you all you need to know about the grip level when you see. Okay, so wide a little bit for Parkins, and Lewis Ward is going to go from third to first before he knows where he is. So Josh Cam makes a mistake. Ward takes the advantage up the inside here, going into Repsol Curve, up towards Seat now. And can Ward close the move off? He can. So Lewis Ward, championship leader, hits the front, but Parkins is going to go back again. Ward goes wide. That will give Parkins the inside line. Oh, no, it won't. Ward gets on the gas a little bit earlier as well. So can Parkins fight back? He can't afford to let Lewis Ward win this race, because if he does, it's championship over.
It is indeed, yeah. The gap will be too big going into race number 2 of the evening. It's going to be a big ask anyway. It was always going to be a big ask, wasn't it? It really relied on Lewis Ward having a DNF. But even if it finished as it is now, even if Lewis Ward did have a DNF in race 2, there would be no chance for Ryan Parkins to win the overall championship. It would be Lewis Ward. He could just not turn up. And some people in real life racing actually do that to save themselves some money for a round. And to save themselves a car crashing, obviously, as well. But Lewis Ward, I'm sure, will be out there trying to win the second race as he normally is. At the moment, though, that champagne bottle you're talking about, it's popped, and it's gone the way of Lewis Ward.
Yep, it did. It came out eventually after it was a stubborn cork. But yes, that dent is well and truly in the ceiling right now. And Ward's gone. He's checking out. Amazing, amazing pace from Lewis Ward. And we can never tell until the closing moments. But it seems that maybe Lewis Ward was holding something in reserve. Very, very clever. Watching the Porsche Sport guys have to push and just actually overheating the tyres. He's been keeping them that little bit cooler, and he thinks, okay, 6 or 7 minutes to go, it's time to go. And he just waited for a mistake from the guys in front and slid past. A proper champion's thinking drive. And we're getting confirmation from Bart Dailman, if the cars finish in this order, Lewis Ward will be champion with 1 round to spare.
Great drive by Lewis Ward, it has to be said. I did say as well, I don't want to sound big-headed here, but it's rare that I get something right as a commentary call, that they'd be in the 150s by the end of the race. Well, Ryan Parkins and Josh Cam previous lap were both in the 150s, so you know, it's basically not holding up well for the old tyres. Let's just have a look at how Sam Bentham ended up taking the wrong way. This is a fight with Carl Sharkey. Oh, and again, another fairly uncharacteristic collision there, I'd say, by iRacing. Unfortunate for Sam Bentham that he came off the worst party. We've got some other close drivers up and down the field. The Team 11 still involved in a little battle, but it's the other Team 11, the PJ Clasons and Matthew Crisp. And, well, just to carry on my champagne story before, Peter, fizzing it up all nicely, wondering how on earth I get it done, and then all of a sudden Alan Hyde comes up with the microphone wanting to interview me, so I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, okay, I'll just, the cork's nearly out, but I'll just put it down, I'll finish it later, it's clearly not working. And all of a sudden, I put it down whilst I'm looking at it, I put it down, as soon as it hits the floor, the cork shoots up and gives me a bloody lip, swollen lip completely, blood everywhere, and Alan Hyde comes up, looks very apologetically for about half a second, then sticks the microphone in my mouth and says, how do you find the race? I don't know, Alan. My mouth is full of blood. Yeah, horrible. But I feel like that's how Ryan Parkins and Josh Cam's race had just gone. All of a sudden, they were fizzing the champagne, and then it's just smacked them straight in the lip.
That's brutal, Jack. I mean, hey, what a pro. I mean, in one way, I'm like, what a pro that he managed to carry on and ask you a question after that. But because I would have been on the floor laughing, but I think it's a bit mean when you've just got a mouthful of blood from a champagne cork. You'd think maybe give you a minute to gather your thoughts.
I was genuinely, while I was answering the question, trying to feel my tongue whether I'd missed a tooth or not. It was quite brutal, but Alan Hyde didn't really seem to notice. In fact, I think he called me by my brother's name for about the 6th time that season. So,
oh no,
yeah, it's always the way, isn't it? Sometimes, but didn't matter. Luckily, I haven't lost any teeth even, and my lips are normal, so it's fine.
Well, that is reassuring. That's a brilliant story. I feel bad laughing at your expense, Jack, but that's a brilliant story.
It was hilarious. I just wish someone got it on film. That would have been the best thing ever, wouldn't it? But,
oh, that would have been on ITV. Yeah, ITV Player.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It would have been looking like a right idiot, wouldn't I? But unlike Lewis Ward, who's looking like a right pro at the moment, isn't he? Because he's all of a sudden, they were running in the 49s. All of a sudden, he's dipped into the 48s. 48.9. Lewis Ward is pulling away. And with good pace underneath him as well, he just dropped into the 49s again, as I say that. But still, look at that, 6/10 the good of Ryan Parkins on that previous lap.
Amazing. Yeah, it's been a real champion's drive, and that's real touch of class from Lewis Ward to be able to sign off his championship in such a way. Very impressive. Jack, well, it's been a bruising affair for poor Jack, starting from the back of the grid, made such a good start, but yeah, just a really unlucky, just a tiny mistake, and that caused a bit of a double spin. But he'll be back in race 2, and of course, with the championship now done. Whoa! As Michael Blake's lost his rear wing. What's happened there? But with the reverse grid in race 2 and with the championship sealed up, maybe we'll see that would put Jack. Ooh, it would put him 4th on the grid for race 2. So you never know. Could be a wild card win for Mr. Westech himself.
Well, I'm just curious actually. I'm about to have a very quick look before we seal off this season. Has Westech, i.e. Sam Bentham, won a race? No, Westech haven't won a race so far this season. So if Jack Whittle came in, I can't believe how big his head would be if he came in and all of a sudden won a race and it was the only race that his team won. That would be.
We're not giving him that interview.
No, we're not giving that interview. He had one last week, didn't he? He doesn't get another one now.
He did. He burned up his interview credits.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, awesome to see him on the grid. But yeah, we don't say we don't hope he wins, but we won't hear from him if he does. Put it that way.
Yeah, we don't want his ego to get too big.
Absolutely not. Ryan Parkins, though, look at this. 2nd place in the championship, 2nd place on the road. It's not quite been the championship he was hoping for, and to be honest, it's the beginning of the championship he has to blame, really. And then there was a road Atlanta where he only scored 1 point. There was race 2 at Hockenheim where he only scored 10 points. Apart from that, he's been very solid, scoring an average of probably over 18 points every single race. It just so happens that you can't drop too many championships. It's only a short run, isn't it? 6 rounds, 12 races. You can't really be sacrificing any points.
Yeah, like I think every driver's had a share of bad luck throughout the season. Some have had more than others, but yeah, Ryan's had a couple of instances which have cost him points. But Lewis Ward, I'm sure, will have a couple of those stories as well. But it's been a great run from Ryan Parkins. Not been not been driving as much as he did last year when he won both of his Porsche Club of Great Britain championships. As we mentioned before in the broadcast, Ryan works in the film industry. He is what they call a focus puller, which I believe is someone with a camera. They do something with a camera.
Sounds like a fancy way of saying they just, they twist the focus bit on the lens.
Cameraman.
Yeah, basically it's the cameraman sort of thing.
We're probably being really offensive here, but anyway, what he works on some very, very like Batman and Little Mermaid and all kinds of cool programs and films. And but of course the film industry kind of shut down in lockdown last year, so Ryan was on his sim all the time, and at that point he was unbeatable. But the man who's been unbeatable in the Simracersworld European Porsche Cup is Lewis Ward. He wins here in Catalunya, and he is your Simracersworld European Porsche Cup champion. The Team 11 driver, the number 97, absolutely king of the hill here in Porsche one-make competition. And he will get an exact replica model from Simmortal Racing of that very car. That's going to look superb, Jack.
I'm very much hoping they do the sort of chrome style justice. I'm sure they will, but that'll be an absolutely stunning thing. Definitely give them a follow and check their Facebook out for updates on how that will turn out, because I bet that'll be absolutely on point as well. Obviously going side by side with his teammate now, PJ Clayson's given a flash of the lights. I'm sure they'll be doing that to try and get a nice photo as well. Put that out in the social media, so if you want to go and have a look at the Team 11 and how they're doing, by all means go and follow them on Facebook as well. But a fantastic drive by those guys. We're only waiting for Michael Blake to come across the line now to give you the full rundown of the results. But a brilliant drive and a brilliant championship won by Lewis Ward. To put it in perspective, I was talking about the rounds and how Ryan Parkins, he had to drop a 1-point round at Road Atlanta. Lewis Ward's worst point score this season was 14, which that was his drop round. So every other result he had was so much higher than that. It was brilliant to see him drive so well. Michael Blake is very slowly making his way around the final corner, has to be said, and I think it's something to do with the fact that his car, I was going to say, hasn't got any downforce. Doesn't look like it's got any body panels full stop left to it. Doesn't look like a Porsche anymore. It looks like a squish, but it looks like a VW Beetle. That's what that looks like right there. Full rundown of the results then, I suppose. Pete?
Yep, let's have a run through. The Lewis Ward then, your champion, and doing so in the finest possible style, winning here in round 11 of the Simracersworld European Porsche Cup Series. Ryan Parkins ran him all the way, but second place will have to do for the King Hippo on this occasion. Josh Cam once again continues his, I believe, 100% podium record in his short Simracersworld European Porsche Cup career. PJ Claessens was fourth with Chris Wood in fifth, Austin Greatorex, the ever-consistent Austin Greatorex, in sixth. Matteo Sufi was seventh with Adam Delmont eighth, Carl Sharkey in ninth, and Mark Woodhouse rounding out the top 10. Sam Bentham was 11th after a bruising day overall for the whole of the Westech Autosport team, it must be said. Joel Eulenbrook was 12th, followed by Matthew Crisp, Craig Schill, Jack Werrell, Jens Goossens, Michael Blake, and Jeroen Kaiser round out our 18-car field. So we have a very brief break before we go into the action for the feature race. 40-minute race with a pit, well, maybe with a pit stop within there as well. What do you reckon, Jack? Are they going to do it? Are they going to go for the whole way without a stop?
It's difficult to know, isn't it? I mean, the Catalunya is quite a different circuit to Silverstone. Silverstone, I was amazed Josh Cam managed to do it because I think I saw a stat. Well, I say I saw a stat. I think I heard a stat when I was watching the Grand Prix at the weekend that in a Formula 1 car, very different obviously to the Porsche, you're flat out for 70% of the lap or something ridiculous. And yeah, so it's a very quick circuit is my point. Josh Cam managed to do it flat out for 70% or probably 60% of the Silverstone lap. He's not going to be on the throttle anywhere near as much here, is he? But when he is on the throttle, it's going to be more important. It's whether or not he's in the slit shift. It's hard to tell. It's pretty much impossible to say because we have no idea how much fuel those guys finished the last race on. I was sort of hoping that a driver might come in, i.e. Lewis Ward probably, or another driver, doesn't really matter who, and come in and have a chat to us, to be honest, in between the races because there's about a 7-minute gap. No one's really turned up. I think I'd be surprised if no one tries it. I would be very surprised if no one tried to go all the way without a pit stop because it looked so effective in the past.
Yeah, it certainly has been. It certainly worked for Josh Cam last time out at Silverstone, and well, there is one great way of finding out. The on-board never lies. When you hear the boo, 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 that's that sort of lift off the throttle.
Like a diesel.
Yeah, exactly. It's yeah, that's often a big giveaway.
It is indeed, yeah. So we'll be definitely keeping an eye on some drivers that, because obviously it's a full reverse grid, isn't it? So we'll be waiting to see if the drivers come through the field as quickly as we expect them to. And if 10, 15 minutes in, maybe one of the drivers isn't coming through the field with the rest of them, but they haven't crashed or anything like that, that's often a giveaway that they're fuel saving a touch. So we'll jump on board with them and see if you can hear that definite pitch tone change compared to the cars around them as well, because that'll be very interesting. I suppose, well, fantastic by Lewis Ward, brilliant race for race number 1, but it does set up a nice race number 2, and the pressure's off for Lewis now. For race 2, he can just go and try and win it in style. Doesn't have to worry too much. He obviously doesn't want to ruin anybody else's race, but doesn't have to worry too much about losing his own race. So excited to see. So keep an eye on that one in the next couple of minutes. Pete, I was wondering as well, you were telling me a little bit about an interesting race that you were with for VCO for obviously the German floods the other day. I found it fascinating, to be honest, and I don't know if everybody who will be watching this will have heard about it or heard what it is, but because it's very individual, isn't it, what you're doing?
Yes, we're on for what obviously is really an absolutely tragic scenario where it's Germany's worst natural disaster for over half a century. The floods in the all around Germany, but particularly in the Eifel region, and it was the Eifel region of Adenau that we were raising money for last night to try and help those who have been affected, because in Germany, for only about 45% of households have flood damage cover on their insurance. So there's a lot of people who will have genuinely lost their homes and be left with nothing. So it's really, really important that everyone sort of got together. And last night we saw the sim. And bearing in mind, this is not this is very much the off season for sim racing. It's obviously roasting hot outside and summertime and what have you. Very much the winter time is the on season for sim racing. But last night the community got together, the drivers, the teams went out there. We had Red Bull Esports, we had William Esports taking part. It was broadcast live on the VCO YouTube channel, and it all for charity. And we raised €8,000 for the fund through some very some very creative ways. It being for charity, nothing was off limits. And you could pay €10 to order one of your rivals to go for a drive-through. So, or if you just felt like, just playing a joke on them, you could pay €10 to the charity fund and they would have to go for a drive-through. It then went on to €40 for someone to drive a whole lap in reverse. That became quite popular.
Sounds brilliant.
You could, yes, at one point you could pay €50 to either rename a corner, rename a driver, rename a team, or rename a commentator. All of those things happened. So my name was changed to Nick Carter from the Backstreet Boys.
Nice.
So I had to be referred to as Nick Carter for the rest of the broadcast. Red Bull Racing, of course, Red Bull run the F1 team run by Christian Horner, who is married to Jerry Halliwell, formerly known as Ginger Spice. The Red Bull Esports team, someone paid €50 to change the name to Salty Spice Racing.
It's such a great idea.
Yeah, someone paid €400 to have the circuit renamed to the George Simmons Ring.
Nice.
We had the Malodrome, which was turn 1. The Zebrina, which was the Zebras, the Zebra team BS competition, renamed the arena to Zebrina. What else did we have? We had a load of other silly things. Someone paid me €100. Oh, sorry, they didn't pay me. Paid the charity for me to sing. €100. So yes, it was brilliant, and it was a whole lot of fun. A very, very light-hearted event, but for a very serious cause.
Yeah, and it sounds awesome as well. Maybe we'll hear a little bit more about it later on. But I just thought it was something that, the guys and girls at home should probably hear about because it sounds awesome. Anyway.
And it is still open. You can still go and donate. Just check it out. VCO Race Against the Flood. Just go on VCO social media channels and you can find it. So for the final round of the Simracersworld European Porsche Cup, round 12, Jeroen Kaiser will start on pole position alongside Michael Blake. Jens Goossens and Jack Werrell will start on row 2, followed by Craig Schill, Matthew Crisp, Joel Eulenbroek, Sam Bentham, Mark Woodhouse, and Carl Sharkey round out your top 10. Adam Delmont will start from 11th with Matteo Sufi in 12th. Austin Greatorex will start from 13th, followed by Chris Wood, PJ Claessens, Josh Cam, Ryan Parkins, and Lewis Ward rounds out the 18-car grid. The lights are being prepared. The revs begin to rise. We're ready to go racing for the final time in the Simracersworld European Porsche Cup. And I think we may have a little bit of a eager getaway there from Jack Werrell, actually. It's either Jack Werrell or Craig Schill, but a little bit of argy-bargy there going into turn 1. Oh, trying to get it all pulled up in time. Michael Blake leads the way then from Jens Goossens, from Jeroen Kaiser, from Sam Bentham. Good start for Sam Bentham. Was it him that maybe jumped the gun, Jack?
I think Michael Blake was definitely a guilty party from my perspective. But we will see as the drivers fight the inside as Matthew Crisp on Sam Bentham. A little bit of a touch on the back end there as he went a little bit too deep. Michael Blake is not pulling away from Jens Goossens, who overtaken Jeroen Kaiser, obviously. Now, you're looking at the two drivers probably primarily placed to try and get a race victory here. Crisp and Bentham, two very quick drivers. Bentham would love to seal off the championship with a race win finally. He's been consistent and he's been improving, but he hasn't quite had the overall pace that the other drivers have. He needs to slightly get a little bit more forward if he's got any chance at that. Michael Blake then leading the way, and just having a look at who else has gained a lot of positions. Greatorex has gained 6 places. Jack Werrell's lost 6 places, so I think we may have put the commentator's curse on him a little bit earlier. Ryan Parkins up 4, Lewis Ward up 4, Craig Schill has lost 12 positions, Matteo Sufi has as well.
So lots of moving and shaking going on within the field on this opening lap. But Michael Blake away clear so far. Ryan Parkins, good start for Ryan. Lewis Ward also as they all pile into the perilous chicane here. Jeroen Kaiser, sneaks back onto the circuit, so not a good start for Jeroen. And Lewis Ward carries on into the top 10. This is, Kaiser loses it early there, Jack.
Very early, didn't it? It's almost like he smashed the brakes and then just put too much weight over the front. But again, very lively. Something we don't often see in these Porsches or in this series anyway.
No, it is a bizarre one. But Michael Blake leads then, but he's under big pressure from Jens Goossens, and things go from bad to worse for Jack Werrell. Big damage on the front right of that car. There's a story there. What has happened to Jack Werrell? Craig Schill is in the pit lane, so I think it might have been Craig Schill then that might have been Craig Schill that had the false start, if you like. Jack Werrell getting a little bit heavy on the brakes. Oh, that'll do it. Goodness me. Goes over the motocross jump and nosedives and damages the front. My word, that was... I don't think I've seen that before on iRacing.
That was very strange, wasn't it? It almost looked like those American big truck style events, don't they? Demolition Derby style truck events with the huge monster trucks doing jumps over these sort of mud jumps, I suppose. But here we go. Jens Goossens losing out on Austin Greaterix and Carl Sharkey and Matthew Crisp and Sam Bentham in the time that we've been sort of looking away. He's gotten one back, maybe. No, not quite. Greaterix has held on to that position. But all of a sudden, Matthew Crisp in the race lead, and then it's about half a second back to Sam Bentham, and then there is quite a gap between the next couple of drivers. So Crisp and Bentham managing to get through. Josh Cam's got off the circuit.
Now, what has happened here? We saw Josh Cam make the fuel save work last week, and well, I mean, it's not a lie. He did go off the circuit ever so briefly. Fastest lap of the race for Matthew Crisp. It's been an up and down season for Matthew. He's had such good pace. He's had some controversial moments. He's been involved in some, but he hits the front now. But another driver who would love to sign off what has been an impressive season on a win would be Sam Bentham for Westech Autosport, the new outfit. But Carl Sharkey up into the podium places as well. So a real mix-up here in the feature race.
Yeah, it's just having a look at Joel Olenbroek being overtaken by Lewis Ward. Olenbroek getting himself right stuck in there in this midfield battle, as per usual, in the sort of reverse grids. Again, very thick in the action, aren't they? As Mark Woodhouse finally gets past Jens Goossens, by the looks of it, as he's on the inside. It's going to be a fairly simple move through the chicane. I don't think Goossens is going to try and carry momentum. However, Woodhouse gets a little bit too keen on the throttle out there. Very difficult corner to get exit, to be fair, and Goossens goes back up the inside.
Yeah, brilliant battling here for the fringes of the top 5 as well. Here comes Mark Woodhouse. Is he going to have a look as well? A little bit late. Just gets through. Goossens leaves the door open. Maybe Woodhouse is a little bit late in the brakes there, maybe, but Ryan Parkins is just carving through the field up into 7th position. He's Lewis Ward still back in 10th, so Parkins doing what he does best, getting through the field, not a scratch on the car. And what can Ryan Parkins do? Can he get a win to sign off his campaign with? That would be nice for Ryan. Now I wonder, is Lewis Ward, is his slightly more sedate pace coming through the field, is Lewis Ward maybe thinking about the fuel save and let's listen, it won't be here if he's going for the overtaking manoeuvre. Will Lewis Ward try and make that stick? We'll see.
Well, he's got to get past Adam Delmont because he's thrown himself up the inside. He's sort of committed himself now. He has to get the move done, otherwise Josh Cam will be there breathing down his neck yet again. And a fantastic little fight between these guys, but Adam Delmont squeezing Ward to the inside as much as he dared. Ward not jumping out of the way, let's say, and Adam Delmont has to concede the position now to Lewis Ward. Let's see if he can hang on to the top 10, or whether Josh Cam will come steaming up his gearbox and give him something to think about.
Yeah, well, I think Josh Cam might be on let's just say a similar strategy to the feature race last week at Silverstone. I think Josh Cam is definitely keeping his powder dry, going for that specific fuel number, hitting that's the thing with Josh, of course. He's a pilot for Jet2 Airlines, and as a pilot has to know exactly the fuel number he's got to hit when he's up there in the air. And same for the Porsche 911 Cup, and he'd done his sums for Silverstone and they paid off. Can they pay off? Will they pay off here at Catalunya? I have to say, I had the pleasure of visiting this circuit actually for the MotoGP 3 years ago. It was very, very enjoyable, and yeah, but great weekend away. That you can get a cheap flight to Barcelona and a couple of nights in a hotel, and the circuit's nice and easy to get to. It's highly enjoyable.
I actually agree with you though. I went to watch the Formula 1 there a couple of years ago when Tom was racing in the Porsche Super Cup. Essentially what you're watching right now, Tom was driving in the real life thing in the sport of the Formula 1. It was quite cool. And means it was an awesome weekend, and we sort of made half a week of it, sort of thing. We went to Barcelona for 2 or 3 days before, you're right, get a nice sort of affordable hotel, stay there a couple of weeks, and it is, easy to get to the actual track. Obviously it's an F1 circuit, they're going to make it, and obviously a superbike circuit, so they're going to make it as easy as to get to as they possibly can and accessible. But when you're in the track, it's quite good. I wouldn't say there's much to see around the track apart from Barcelona itself, but it's a very enjoyable position to be in, and we loved our time there. In fact, I managed to sort of somehow wiggle my way into Red Bull. We were watching the Super Cup race out of the Red Bull garage, like using their fancy screens and everything in the garage while they were just stood around the car not doing anything. And all of a sudden they started putting the rope out in front of the garage, and we were still in there, sort of thing, like, what do we do? And they took the car out and everything. They started doing practice pit stops in front of us. Tom had come like third or something like that, really good, really wanted to celebrate it and everything like that. And I was sat in the Red Bull garage watching them do practice pit stops in front of me. I was like, I'm not missing this, no chance. It was fantastic.
They are a Formula 1 pit stop. You'd almost have to watch it in slow motion to really appreciate the true excellence of it. And it is just, oh, it is. The choreography is amazing. The amount of practice they must have to put in, incredible. But you think about it in Formula 1, how much does a tenth of a second in lap time cost? A lot of money. Whereas that can be gained in the stops and get that track position. Speaking of track position, big deep lunge on the brakes for Bentham, but he just gets it pulled up and no more. So Sam Bentham hits the front for Westech Autosport. Matthew Crisp down to second, and Austin Greatorex and Carl Sharkey looming not far behind. And I can assure you, Austin will he'll fancy this now. He'll get the smell of a potential victory, and he'll want to get his elbows out and have a go for it.
Yeah, we've seen a handful of drivers come into the pit lane so far. Jens Guza, Jerome Kaiser, Michael Blake, Joel Eulenbrook, Craig Schill, Jack Wells come in twice, and Matteo Sufi as well. Now, it's interesting. None of those drivers will maybe what you say, race-winning favourites. So we haven't had any of the protagonists of the series, shall we say, go for that pit stop just yet. Lewis Ward, not quite carving through as quickly, but still probably progressing a bit quicker than I maybe would suspect of fuel saving. Okay, I cut to the camera a little bit late there, didn't I? But very smooth on the throttle on exit. I think that's purely to maintain the tyres, as Wood got very leery on the exit. Maybe driving in his mirrors, a little bit keen to try and catch up to Ryan Parkins rather than keeping Lewis Wood behind him. But we'll keep on board with Lewis Ward as he comes down the main straight.
Yeah, let's have a look and see what he's got in the tank. Definitely down into turn one will be a very good indicator if it's a fuel save strategy or if it's a flat out strategy. Let's listen.
accelerating
It's a
all the way
flat-out
there.
strategy.
Yeah, he was accelerating all the way. You can see the kilometres an hour just climbing through 250, touching 260. And it's fairly plain that wasn't lifting off.
No, it was not. No, that was not lifting off. So Lewis Ward going to take a pit stop. Then I would happily put a 50 pence piece on that, which is a lot for a Scotsman. But Josh Cam, that's who I want to know. What's he planning? He's actually not dropped that far behind Lewis Ward, so maybe Cam is thinking the fuel save isn't on this time, and maybe feels he has to take the stop. Like, I wonder.
Sorry, Peter, just on that, I'm actually more curious. I think PJ Clayson's is one of the drivers going for that long hit, because the reason I say that, unless he's got damage on his car, which I'm waiting to... He's got quite a lot of damage, actually. It's only because his top speed has been down on everyone else's for about, well, every single lap. Oh, Sam Bentham's had an off.
Oh, that is a great pity. Sam Bentham was your leader. So let's see what's happened then. Looking at Matthew Crisp right now. Oh dear, just lights it up on the exit of the Lacacia hairpin. So just asks for the power. Just here it goes. Wait for it. Up onto the curb. Asks for the power on the paint. And Michelin Tire says, I'm good, but I'm not that good.
He did well, quite well, I think, to hold it the way he did, didn't he? He realised what was happening, and it could have easily been facing the wrong way. Still in the podium positions, but WesTech Autosport will be absolutely gutted to see the high 30N dropping back down the order.
Yeah, the replica end badges.
Of course, yeah.
Replica
not the
end
real
badges.
ones. It's not quite that quick.
No, replica. Austin Greatorex, what that does mean, though, is Austin Greatorex, Matthew Crispin to the lead, but with Greatorex right on the boot lid now. And like we said, Austin will be sensing this. He'll be explaining to his Twitch followers right now, all three of them in a post box, of just how on the limit he is.
Yeah, he may well be, you're right. He's actually in 6th place in the championship. And just having a look, he needs to score about where he is, actually. I'm just trying to do the maths, and I'm really struggling. 12 points, I believe, or 13 to be safe, to beat Gavin Halls, his teammate, or his former teammate, as well, who obviously hasn't been here for the last 2 races. So to overtake and get into the top 5. So Greatorex, I'm sure, will be pushing hard to get as many points as possible.
Well, yes, I'm sure that will be a consideration. As a little bit wide there for Chris, but able to just close it off there. You can do that there, coming through Bank Sabadell and over towards Europe Car. I love the name of the final corner. Well, the final corner, if we were using the correct layout, not this silly chicane, but going around here, it's New Holland. It's named after a tractor.
Is it? Why
New Holland tractors? You never seen a New Holland tractor before?
Well, no,
the
but
blue
more
one.
to the point, why is it named after the New Holland tractors?
Well, New Holland have sponsored it, clearly.
Oh, very interesting. I'd never heard of them, to be honest. So, yeah, that one had escaped me. I thought it was pointing towards Holland or something. I was very, very curious, to be honest. Matthew Crisp, though, I think he's looking a little bit susceptible here to an overtake by Greatorex, potentially. I think the Porsche Sport drivers are quite keen on getting this done early, and early is exactly what they've done by the looks of it, because Crisp has gone wide, Greatorex has gone up the inside, and Crisp will have the inside for the next corner. In fact, no, he's nowhere near. Great exit by Greatorex.
Yeah, brilliant stuff there from Austin Greatorex. Hits the front then, 15 minutes down, 25 to go here at Catalunya. Sizzling showdown here in Spain. And Greatorex now at the front. Can Matthew Crisp strike back? Can he retaliate? They've dropped Carl Sharkey a little bit. He's back and forth, and Sam Bentham is not done either. You've got to think he'll be very, very keen to avenge his mistake.
He'll be very keen indeed. Just going to have a shoot back though, because Josh Cam is getting very close to the back of Mark Woodhouse here, and obviously Cam is probably the slowest progressing driver that we've seen in the entire suppose, the protagonists' field, shall we say, the likes of Ryan Parkins, Lewis Ward, Josh Cam, the podium sitters for race number 1. Cam hasn't come through anywhere near as quickly so far. I'm just going to go back onto a roll bar cam and see if we can listen to the throttle. That's a fuel save. Josh Cam going for the fuel save.
Yep, he is indeed. Yep, so Josh Cam going for the same strategy, we think. I did think coming out the final corner he was nice and steady on the throttle, but that's just Josh anyway. It's just very smooth. But yeah, the lift and coast down into a heavy braking zone, that is definitely the key telltale. We're gonna have to get the calculators out again, Jack.
Well, I mean, your guess is as good as mine, to be honest. I think we'll have to rely on the fact that Josh Cam is probably better at maths than most of us when it comes to fuel efficiency.
I would hope so, especially if you've bought a Jet2 airline ticket over the last couple of weeks. That'd be pretty. I am gonna when I travel now, I'm gonna only fly Jet2 Airways, so that one day I'll eventually get Josh to fly me. That would be very cool.
So you'll have to find out what route Josh is flying most frequently and just pick that destination as your holiday.
Yes, yeah. It's just like, or right into. I'd love to get into a Twitter conversation with the Jet2 social media bot. Be like, I'd like to go on holiday, but I'd like Josh Cam to fly me there, please. If you could arrange that for me, please and thank you.
Yeah, exactly that. And give him a bit of a shout out or maybe a stream and maybe get a free ticket. You never know. Just going to have a look back, sorry Pete, at the green flag, because obviously we saw a few people that maybe we were a bit touch and go about whether they jumped the start. So just before we have a look at this, what will be quite a good race, I'm sure, between Sharky Parkins and Lewis Ward, let's just have a look at this green flag then. So right in the front of the field, I think we had Jerome Kaiser, didn't we? That's Michael Blake. Look at the background, that's Sam Bentham taking, it wasn't Sam Bentham, sorry, it was... No, it was Jack Wewell, wasn't it? Taking a huge jump start. Just have one more look at Jack Wewell here.
Thought it was Jack. I was right the first time. Oh, there he goes. Yeah.
Huge jump start by Wewell there. It was a brilliant start by Michael Blake. But, yeah, it wasn't to be for Jack. But here we go. Ryan Parkins passed, no, he's not passed anyone, actually. Sharky Parkins and Ward. We've come back to it as we left it.
For those watching with Luke Holroyd from Porsche Sport suggesting that it might be Benidorm, that the Jet2 route that Josh will be flying, a Porsche Sport trip to Benidorm. Could we go somewhere like Seville instead?
Nah, off to Benidorm, fish and chips. Just like going to Bristol, isn't it,
yeah. I mean, I would go. I would go. I'd be up for that. But yeah, could Josh like pretend that he's had to do an emergency landing in Seville? Oh dear, we've ended in Seville. Oh well, never mind. Have fun,
chaps. I got lost and I've ended up out the
airport.
No! Oh no!
Oh, the fuel save didn't pay off. Damn
it! Got
it. Well, one driver who's not on the fuel save is Ryan Parkins, and neither is Lewis Ward. Both of the podium protagonists from race 1 are now right onto the back of Carl Sharkey, and they'll pick up a nice draft here down towards turn 1. But indeed, Lewis Ward has actually got a great run on Ryan Parkins as they head down into turn 1, also known as Elf. Oh, side by side. Parkins goes a little bit late in the brakes, trying to defend. They flick back and forth. Will Ward be able to get the move done? Looks like he might do as they swoop round Seat and Renault up towards Repsol. And yes, looks like Lewis Ward has got the move done for now, but Parkins is going to try and hang it right around the outside, but can't quite get it done. Lewis Ward goes through and up to 5th. So we've gone past the halfway mark. No sign of any drivers taking their pit stop just yet. will there be any early takers? At the moment, I wonder, is there anyone who might be being held up? Well, certainly that might be the case for Lewis Ward, because one driver who's very hard to pass is Carl Sharkey, and straight away goes to the defensive line down into the Lancashire hairpin. Ward goes all the way around the outside, looking for the inside up into Bank Sabadell, and gets it done. That's a very clever move there from Lewis Ward. Carl Sharkey opens up the door, lets his teammate go through, Ryan Parkins. And Parkins able to continue the pursuit of Lewis Ward.
It's a champion's drive so far, isn't it, by Lewis Ward? He's done brilliantly well. He's gained 14 positions, the most of any driver out there on the field so far for the Team 11. Also, Greater X and Ryan Parkins are drawing for second place on that front, if anybody's wondering as well, because they've both gained 12 positions. The Porsche Sport 912 drivers certainly showing they can get it done when it comes to close and desperate race. Well, sorry, close and desperate. It's not close and desperate at all, because it's very, very measured. They'll be doing them a huge disservice, but still very quick from the guys there. So, who are we looking at? Pitted drivers. That's what we've got to question now, because we're just over halfway. Pete, I'm just having a look, trying to find where the pit thing is. There we go.
Yeah, well, this is we've got PJ. So PJ Clayson has taken a pit stop, as is Jens Goosens, Michael Blake, Joel Eulenbrook, Craig Schill have all taken pit stops. So Josh Cam, although he's on the fuel safe, he's actually got decent track position in 8th position right now. Carl Sharkey 2 cars ahead in the 911 in 6th. So yeah, Josh Cam just exactly where he needs to be, and he's got a great windbreak there in the form of Chris Wood.
He's not that far behind Lewis Ward, to be honest, really, is he? I mean, he's about a second and a half, 2 seconds behind Lewis Ward, 2.5 seconds behind Lewis Ward. That's a huge lunge up the inside against Chris Wood as well. He's put them off there, actually. He's hung him out to dry somewhat. And I thought Adam Delmont was going to get a bit of a nose puncture for good measure as well. But Josh Cam getting his elbows out, getting his wings out, shall we say, and pushing his way through.
Yeah, indeed. He's gone on to full thrust. Get past. Josh Cam has got into full thrust. There you go, soundbite that one. 16 minutes to go here at Catalunya, and indeed in the Simracersworld European Porsche Cup season. It's a circuit which, of course, Porsche have had quite a bit of success at. It's not been a circuit really used that much for sports car racing or top level sports car racing. Occasionally it has, but mainly more of a Grand Prix venue on both 2 and 4 wheels. But one of my favourite cars ever produced, the Porsche RS Spider, did win here with owner Peter van Merkstein driving, along with a certain Jos Verstappen, father of Max.
I was going to say that again. Your encyclopedic knowledge of motorsport really does amaze me, I have to say, Peter. It's easily the best I've worked with, to be honest, as being a commentator. It's quite interesting to hear these sort of tidbit facts as well. Your Spa one, I can't remember what the fact was, but it was the previous F1 cars.
The pole lap.
The pole lap, yeah, that was it. Averaging over 160 miles an hour, wasn't she?
Yes, indeed, yeah. But Jim Clark was over 150, but I think Henry Pescarolo, he was, I think, 263 kilometres an hour average in a sports car.
Madness.
Madness. Absolute madness indeed, yes.
Not quite as quick here in Catalonia, is it? I think it's safe to say. It has been relatively criticised as well at some points over its history for being a touch dull. They've actually changed the circuit, not for this year's Grand Prix, but they plan to change it for next year, for the next sort of racing season, I believe. And they're sort of that hairpin mid in the sort of sector 2, they're sort of widening that up to try and give it a better minimum speed, and then getting rid of the sharp left-right straight after it as well. I'll point it out when we get to it, but it's a touch on. I'm not sure whether it's actually going to encourage any more overtaking, because that's the biggest criticism. You can't really overtake and race around it. The Porsche guys are proving us wrong a little bit, but it is a common criticism of the circuit.
It is indeed. It's certainly been a lot more successful in the motorcycle world.
Yes.
Motorcycle Grand Prix Championship, previously known as the 500cc World Championship, and then what became MotoGP in early 2000s. I mean, 2009, Valentino Rossi versus Jorge Lorenzo, both on the factory Yamahas. Oh my word, what a race. If you've never seen it, just look it up on YouTube. The last couple of laps in particular, wow. Just a proper ding-dong battle. And yeah, places where you think you couldn't make an overtake, well, they did it.
Yeah, it is always nice. I mean, I have to say, I'm not an avid watcher of sort of MotoGP or anything two wheels, to be honest. Never sort of wet my whistle, shall we say. But when you do find the highlights on YouTube or the close racing, they are absolutely astounding to see, it has to be said. And I will look that one up, actually. This is the corner I'm talking about. They're apparently widening it out, so it's almost a lot like the turn 3 that they have now. They're sort of going almost using the exit there, the sort of other circuit that they're going to be planning on using. So they almost get rid of entirely the left hand before this right hand kink. It's going to be a bit odd, to be honest, but you know, we'll have to wait and see. I think we've had we've had a big crash. We've had a big name crash. I thought he'd just come into the pits, but Lewis Ward has had a very uncharacteristic spin. And, well, it's lucky he tied up the championship as he did in the last race, because that would maybe start worrying him.
Indeed it would.
As well.
Yeah, well, I thought, well, maybe a good time to do his pits and just break up the momentum a little bit. But what that means, Ryan Parkin's now up to 3rd position. Matthew Crisp in 2nd. Austin Greatorex still leads with just over 12 minutes to go here at Circuit de Catalunya. So, Adam Delmont, will he come out in front of them? Yes, he will. So he'll come out in front of Chris Wood and PJ Claessens and Lewis Ward.
I'm not sure he will, actually. I think Lewis Ward's just about going to sneak through, but crucially... Oh, he's not, actually. You may well call this right. It's very close. It's very close indeed, but he does just manage to get past. And he goes wide. He goes too hot. Lewis Ward is not driving very characteristically at all, is he? As he's fighting with Adam Delmont, the Excite driver. Now, crucially, Chris Wood and PJ Claessens have both had a pit stop as well. So Lewis Ward is in the same stage of the race. It's just track position in terms of drivers who have had a pit stop. Look at the track temperature, Pete. That is high. That's 10 degrees higher than we had in qualifying. Pete? And we may have... oh, sorry, no, he'll be back in a second. My apologies. But yes, the track temperature, 39 degrees centigrade. So we were talking about the cars struggling in the 30-minute race before. They're absolutely screaming at the drivers now with the 39-degree heat, because it's, as I said, really making the lap time struggle as well. We were talking about 147s at the beginning of the first race. Well, the beginning of this race is 148, so the track temperature started higher. They're now running consistently in the 50s. A 50 is a semi-decent lap time for many of the drivers now, as Josh Cam goes up the inside as Sam Bentham. This makes me wonder, we saw Cam fuel saving before. Has he thrown the fuel saving strategy out the window? 10 minutes left. He sees Lewis Ward going backwards. Maybe he thinks he can get a pit stop and still finish on the podium. Be a tough one though, because he's a good 2 or so seconds back from Ryan Parkins, who he full well knows is no slouch either. We'll have to keep an eye on that one as it progresses. So no other drivers have come into the pit stops on that previous lap. With 10 minutes to go, we're very interested to see how it all sort of takes shape. Greatorex still your race leader, 12 places gained. Matthew Crisp, Alcantec NHR car, is in 2nd place, 4 places gained. Just behind the race leader, but really able to pull in any kind of reasonable gap. He was about 9 thousandths of a second quicker on that previous lap. Matthew Crisp was 9 thousandths quicker than Austin Greatorex, but that's not really enough to eat into the gap. Ryan Parkins in 3rd place, a full 3.75 seconds behind these 2 drivers. And then you got Josh Cam, a full 2.5 seconds behind him. Top 5 rounded out, quite poetically I'd say, by Sam Bentham, who's always been around 5th position, never really managed to get up higher. Jack Wells coming into the chat as well, saying, well then, the WesTech Autosport space program has made flight to this evening. Well, that's exactly what we saw, isn't it? The almost, what did I call it before? It was oh my god, monster truck style sort of crash that Jack Wells had, which is a bit of a shame. So his evening hasn't quite gone to plan. Adam Delmont has been overtaken by Lewis Ward. And then Lewis Ward has overtaken PJ Claessens in the T11 car. Lewis Ward trying to put in some good lap times now. The last lap wasn't quite as hot. We'll see what he can muster now as he comes across the line. He's going to be hoping that it's in the 49s if he's got any hope in catching Chris Wood, who's currently the leading car, who have had a pit stop. It is a 49, it's a 49.6, very quick time by him. He's got nearly 3.5, or just over 3.5 seconds to catch Chris Wood in though. Keep an eye on that one. And then obviously all the drivers that haven't come into the pits yet to be coming in as well. It's estimated in the pits you will lose about 30 seconds if it's a good pit stop. Chris Wood 29.43. However, the likes of Adam Delmont was 32. So about 30 seconds is what you'd lose, and if you're looking at Austin Greatorex, if he lost 30 seconds, it would put him out around about just ahead of Mark Woodhouse at the moment. So very interesting to see how it all is all going to come to pass. Although we have guessed a couple of times this season about where people will blend back in after the pit stops. We've usually got it wrong, so we'll have to keep an eye out. Leader of this race, though, is not guaranteed to be Austin Greatorex. As he comes into the pits, that's a late pit stop. Lewis Hamilton got told off for that once upon a time, but Matthew Chris takes the race lead. Now, crucially, I want to have a look, and Ryan Parkins has come in as well. I want to have a look at Chris Wood, if he wasn't lagging in and out of existence, which is a bit of a shame, because he's going to be coming up to the final section now. We want to see what Austin Greatorex, who hasn't yet stopped there, he stopped in his spot. Ryan Parkins stops in his spot. Chris Wood coming out of the penultimate corner now. I think Greatorex is going to have plenty of time, more than enough time, plenty of time. As he comes out of the pits, this is going to be Mark Woodhouse on his outside. But I think in the corner is going to be Greatorex's. Mark Woodhouse won't be very happy about that. I said it would bring him out just ahead of Mark Woodhouse. Actually, I got that right. That is the first time this series I've actually called that correctly. And I'm very proud of myself.
I'm proud of you too, Jack.
Thanks, Pete. Thank you very much.
God, you trust technology. Isn't this amazing, the technology that we have here on the iRacing simulator, that people can race all over the world in real time, but if your internet goes down, oh, you're snookered.
It's something you don't see in real life, isn't it? You may have engine problems that you don't get in the sim world, but internet problems is a lot more common, I have to say.
Yeah, they what is it they say in race? Oh, it's always the same story. It's a 50p part that went wrong and crippled a £1 million race car. Well, it's
so
I wish my internet was 50p a month.
Yeah, I was going to say I wouldn't mind it being not quite as good if it was 50p a month, but still, good internet is absolutely valuable, isn't it, for sim racing, as well as a half decent monitor or TV to race it on with the frame rates or something like that, but it can be very damaging. For the likes of Chris Wood, I mean, we saw him lagging in and out. That would be very difficult for him to drive. Carl Sharkey in the race pits. Sam Bentham carries on. Josh Cam has also carried on. 5 minutes to go. Josh Cam on that fuel saving strategy still, do you think, Pete? We saw him carving through the field. I think he's turned the heat up a little bit.
Has he turned up the wick? Is he able to hit his fuel number? Well, Carl Sharkey is going to take a little splash and dash to finish off his championship. Very solid as always. Ryan Parkins through into 6th position. And pit stop done for Ryan and indeed for Carl. So, yeah, Josh Cam. Whoa, but can Matthew Crisp or Sam Bentham make it work, I wonder?
Well, we don't think Matthew Crisp has been fuel saving, do we? So if we're going to see him in the pits, it would have to be in the next lap or two. Otherwise, it's pretty much too late, isn't it? Because we've only got 4 minutes to go. It's a 1 minute 50 lap, just under a 2 minute lap. So it'd have to be coming in this lap or the next. Josh Cam looks like, I'm confident in Cam being able to stretch this out, but it'd be a huge margin that he would win this race. So I'd be impressed with Sam Bentham, because he'll be keen to try and finish the day on a high, the series on a high. We've mentioned a couple of times that the podiums have been his next step that he needs to achieve. He's on the podium at the moment, so you never know.
Indeed, yeah. He's wonder who's got it up their sleeve. Is Crisp? Yep, Crisp keeps going. So I think it could actually come down to how many laps come into this. It's actually going to be remarkably close. I can't quite do the maths quick enough, but wow, I think you never know. Unlike what we had at Silverstone, where it was exactly the 40 minutes more or less, we could go a minute and 40 over it, and that could change things completely for the field.
Well, here comes Mark Woodhouse. He was the only other driver not to take a pit stop so far this race. He's had the spin. He's now coming into the pits. Mark Woodhouse, his day's pretty much done fighting for that top 5 positions. But you're absolutely right. I mean, Matthew Crisp, if you're looking at the gap, or the interval, sorry, it's a bit much on the left-hand side of the screen, but I'll take it away in a second. But you can see it's a 3.7 second gap, 3.8 pretty much, gap between himself and Josh Cam. Which means if he's coming across the line, and it's 39 minutes and 58 seconds, he could back off slightly and just get the checkered flag done. But it's a risky strategy, isn't it? Because if he backs off and tries to get the checkered flag on 40 minutes, and he doesn't manage it, Josh Cam's just going to absolutely fly by him, because he's come off the throttle for 2 full seconds on that start-finish straight. It's a difficult one to... Matthew Crisp is going to be hoping and praying that he's going to have it all calculated correctly.
Well, I'd love to know what fuel is in that car right now. Can Matthew Crisp make it to the end on this tank? I'm really not sure if he can, because he's been pushing hard at the front, doing some really impressive lap times. So he's been able to do that and be fuel efficient as well. Wow.
Josh Cam is also a full second a lap quicker. Matthew Crisp has nothing to lose, does he, by trying to push this as long as he can?
Well, it will be this will be the last lap. So it will be, if my maths are correct, yes indeed, this will be the last lap. So it will be just over the 40 minutes. So Matthew Crisp's going to try it.
Well, fingers crossed. One, he's got the pace to stay ahead of Cam, because again, Cam is very quick. But to be fair, on that last lap, he was only 0.2 quicker. But it's whether or not he's fuel saved enough. And we don't think Crisp has been on a fuel save strategy, by the way. This is something that has taken us completely by surprise, as well as Sam Bentham as well, who, by the way, I think has had a spin this race. I might be getting it mixed up with the previous race, but I think Bentham has been around, and he's managed to keep this on the track all race as well. So I'll be astonished. I mean, the likes of Ryan Parkins, Lewis Ward have all taken to the pit lane. Oh! No, doesn't matter. Oh, my days. I had a panic
attack. That's Craig Schill getting out the way.
Yeah, that's Craig Schill being very considerate.
Very considerate indeed. Yes, absolutely. Right off the circuit, allowing Matthew Crisp through. Be interesting to get a short on board with Matthew Crisp just to see if he's able to be flat out. Let's listen.
That's definitely not flat out.
That's not flat out. No, that is been like, please make it. We've all been there. We know how far away the petrol station is. We're going, please, come on, make it. Josh Cam, oh, this is going to be so close. It's going to come right down to the line.
The time has plummeted away. It's been a second already that he's eaten out of him. Matthew Crisp will keep an eye, because he may well be taking a race victory here. He's taken one before, I believe. This is going to be his second of the season. He needs to get out of the final corner. The checkered flag is going to drop. Matthew Crisp is going to take the victory here on a zero-stop strategy. Crisp flashes the lights. Cam also on zero-stop. Sam Bentham also on a zero-stop is your podium. A fantastic drive by those 3 drivers. I think Sam Bentham's already run out of fuel.
Yes, there's nothing left in the tank of that number 99 car. Wow, so Matthew Crisp pulls off the no-stop strategy. Austin Graderex lets Ryan Parkins by again for the second week running. for championship points. So Parkins will now going to be tight for second place in the championship. I think it will go the way of Ryan Parkins, though.
It may well do, and I just saw in the chat that Matthew Chris was actually fuel saving on that last lap purely so he had enough to do donuts at T1. So,
brilliant.
There you go, Matthew.
Oh, style.
It wasn't really a donut. I'd say they were more smiley faces because they didn't do the full 360 from what we saw. But still, there we go. I think his car is now done and dusted, isn't it?
Yes, that's one way to use those last couple of milliliters of fuel. So Matthew Crisp, then, your winner of the 12th and final round of the Simracersworld European Porsche Cup, with Josh Cam in second place. An amazing short career in this season for Josh Cam. 100% podium record, with Sam Bentham rounding out the podium. Once again, a great season for Sam. Ryan Parkins finishing in fourth with Awesome Greater X, fifth, making it 3 Porsche Sport cars in the top 5. Chris Wood was sixth, followed by Lewis Ward, PJ Claessens, Adam Delman, and Carl Sharkey round out the top 10. Michael Blake was 11th, followed by Joel Eulenbroek, Jens Goossens, Mark Woodhouse, Craig Schill, Jeroen Kaiser, Jack Werrell, and Matteo Sufi. Well, there we are. 3 cars making the no-stop strategy work, Jack.
Very impressive indeed. And one of the drivers that didn't quite manage to do it, but still had a brilliant day, finished in 4th place in that one. And obviously on the podium in race number 1 was Ryan Parkins. And Pete, you had the honour of having a chat to the man himself. So take it away.
I do indeed. Ryan Parkins, welcome to the Simracersworld European Porsche Cup commentary box. How was that out there today in the Catalonian heat?
Probably the heat was probably matching what it is in the UK at the moment. It was great fun. It was really good. I didn't deserve pole. I haven't done enough laps to get that. I don't know how that happened. And then race 1 was really good fun. I was really slow compared to Kosh Jam and Lewis Ward. Second race, quite good fun battling through the field there. Really good. I did kind of bluff and made it up last week about fuel saving. I made that up on the spot. But it bit me.
That a bit of gamesmanship there from the King Hippo.
I was trying to play mind games, but I'm not very good at it. Clearly, it backfired. But we discussed it at the start in Porsche Sport. We discussed it to go and do it, and Josh went, I can't bother to race properly, flat out. It was too hot. So he went that way instead.
Well, talk to us about obviously the cockpit temperatures are going to be pretty high today, but also the track temperature was pretty high as well. It looked like the grip would just disappeared as the race reached about halfway in race 1. Was it hard to keep the car online, because it did look a bit of a handful?
It was actually quite tough, but for us, I don't know about anybody else, but with Porsche Sport, we've been using the same setup since Interlagos, so we haven't changed it. So it wasn't great, but it was good enough for pole for a quick lap. But yeah, the tyres were slowly going and it's warming up. And then when Lewis was coming on to me when he got past Josh, Josh literally said on the radio, "Don't lock up," and I locked up into turn 1, and Lewis got past. Classic. But it was actually got really quite hot, and it's really slow, and such long corners put such load on the tyres. You just don't want to overheat them and then spin, and you look silly doing it. So I wasn't going deliberately slow in race 1. I was just taking my time. I knew it would be taken anyway because the pole position was really lucky, really.
No luck involved, I'm sure, Ryan. But it's been thoughts on the championship as a whole. That's how we're concluded now. It's been a great battle for the title between yourself, Lewis Ward, Matthew Crisp. You've all been up there at some point. Your final thoughts on the Simracersworld European Porsche Cup.
Well, congratulations to Lewis Ward for winning it overall outright. I wonder if one's a team one actually. I'm hoping it's me and Austin. Overall, I've enjoyed it, but I've learnt quite a lot. I can't really race during the week because I have to rush home from work, and you've just done 12 hours of working and then jumping in the sim. It's very difficult. My wife doesn't like it. But the positives though, it's actually been quite good fun. It gets stressful, pressure, but that's why we're doing it. And if anything, Porsche Sport are actually more bonded. I think, unfortunately, with the people we lost, but we've actually had good fun racing and bumping doors and hip checks with people, and actually really enjoyed it. Good fun. Um, yeah, it's good watching the races back with you guys as well.
Well, we've certainly enjoyed calling them, Ryan. It's been an absolute cracker, and looking forward to seeing you out on track on Sim Racers World TV again very soon, my friend.
Grazie mille.
So that was Ryan Parkins, and we have our race 2 winner, Matthew Crisp, who is with Jack Oliphant.
Yeah, hi Matthew. First of all, congratulations on a fantastic race victory. We weren't sure if you were going to manage to do that. I think you were showing us a little bit of a cheeky fuel saving right at the end just to do some donuts. Am I right in saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, as Jacco van der Plat came in the pit, in the chat, I think, and said, that's all he's doing it for. We thought it was proper on the edge stuff.
No, he was telling me my fuel numbers throughout the entire race, and then there was a point where he said, "Right, you can push to the end," and then the couple laps to go, I sort of saw the gap to Josh behind, and I said to him, "Don't get worried, I'm just going to fuel save, so I have enough to do a donut in T1 after the race."
Well, at least you're finishing with style, that's for sure. I think that's your second race victory of the season. You had one at Spa, and then you've been on the podium a couple of times, but that is obviously another race victory. It's been a decent run for you, hasn't it? I can confirm you are third in the championship. You must be pretty happy with that.
Yeah, it's a decent result. I mean, I came into this season kind of knowing that I'd be fighting for the championship, but it wasn't going to be an easy ride. If all the second races of the weekends counted, I think would have been much better than because all my bad results seem to come in the first races of the weekend. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with it overall. It's not a car that I ever drive. I rarely drive this car, so yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say your first race at Atlanta, your first race at Silverstone, and your first race tonight all scored 8 points apiece. So whereas the rest of them you're scoring plus 20 at every single race bar one at Hockenheim. So a very, very strong performance from yourself, and I'm sure you'll be back. You say it's not a very strong car for you. I'd say it's a pretty strong performance. So will you be back racing in it anytime soon?
Yeah. I mean, I enjoy driving it. I've just never been that competitive in it really much before. So it's nice to be sort of at the front of the field. I will say about the Road Atlanta though, I was very close to not actually racing at Road Atlanta because let's just say I wouldn't drive a car on the real life roads of that day. So I was a bit under the weather. So I was like, in that Road Atlanta race, I was like, do I just sit it out and accept that I'm going to fall out of championship contention, or do I drive and accept that it won't be my best performance? In the end, it didn't work out too badly.
I was going to say, I think you got a second place in race number 2, so it didn't go badly at all. What do you normally race then? A couple of last questions. What do you normally race if you don't find the Porsche too competitive for yourself?
I mean, to be honest, I drive a bit of everything. Mainly, Peter knows he's seen me a lot in TCR or do a bit of GT3. To be honest, I do drive most cars on iRacing, but this car I've always sort of avoided for whatever reason. And yeah, this season came up and I thought I've got to give it a go. I've got to learn this car, and this season taught me a lot because I never used to make my own setups. I always used to rely on other people, and yeah, this is the first time I've made my own setups. I've learned a lot.
Well, it's fantastic to hear, and you've done well as well in third place, obviously, which has been brilliant. So, Matthew, Chris, before we let you go, as we're just seeing you avoid a spinning Team Mad car, the number 76, I'm not sure who that was. Is there anybody Jerome Kaiser? Is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out to before we let you go?
Just our team at Alcantech NHL. It's the first championship I've done with this team, and yeah, so I hope I've done those guys proud. And just SimLab and Nyman Racing.
I think you've done them more than proud, I have to say, because I think you're the only Alcantech car here tonight. Am I right?
Yes, although Yakko was spotting for me, so...
That was it. Yeah, I was going to say Yakko's normally there. That's why I was curious. I was reading down my entry list then, thinking there's normally another one. Anyway, congratulations, Matthew. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and hopefully we'll see you on another Sim Racers World Series.
Yeah, see you guys.
And that was Matthew Crisp, Pete. Lovely to have a chat with him. Our Race 2 winner managed to make it all the way to the end. And actually, he was being a bit cheeky. He wasn't fuel saving quite as much as he needed to in the end. But he was fuel saving too much. But he just wanted to get those donuts done and dusted.
Is it really a win if you don't do donuts?
Well, I mean, it doesn't count.
I don't think
That's
so.
what I heard, if you don't do it.
For sure. Absolutely does not count. That is for certain. Well, that is all we have time for here on Sim Racers World TV for the season of the Sim Racers World European Porsche Cup. It's been an absolute pleasure bringing you all of the action. Lewis Ward, your driver's champion, and we can confirm Porsche Sport 912, Ryan Parkins and Austin Greatorex, the team champions as well. So well done to them. Thanks to you all for tuning in throughout the season. From myself, Peter MacKay, and from Jack Oliphant, thanks for watching, and see you next time on Sim Racers World TV.